Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Belgium once again, and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. So these guys are actually a very well established brewery, but still part of the kind of newer generation of Belgian breweries. You know, a lot of breweries started to open up in the 80s, and it's kind of been quite constant ever since then. These guys are about 20 years old though, but in that lifetime they've built up a very good reputation for themselves. They've got a good variety of different beer styles, a number of which you wouldn't normally associate with Belgian breweries, and the one that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from them. Of course, I've not tried anything from these guys, but it's a style that is getting a little bit more popular, and it's also a sub-style within that we haven't really covered on the channel at all, and it was also a recommendation from my former colleague Alan from the Bishop's Arms and Gustav Adolf's Torre in Malmö, and he really knows his beer. This was one that he said I really needed to review, so I took his word for it and went and bought a bottle. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to a little place called Erpe-Mere in Flanders. It's kind of between Ghent to the northwestish and Brussels to the southeastish, but we're going to have a look then at my first beer from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren. So this one is called the Saison d'Erpe-Mere Lentebier. It comes in at 9% ABV. This one is of course an Imperial Saison, but it's also listed as a bier de March, which is the, literally it translates as a beer of March into English. So it's like a kind of slightly more malty Saison from what I remember, and slightly stronger of course as well. But yeah, this should be very, very interesting. This beer was released as part of the Tillfälligt temporary assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden, I believe at the very end of May 2023. And like I say, this was a recommendation from Alan, so I thought, you know, I really need to do this one. He absolutely loves these Saisons. So yeah, I've not reviewed too many of these, and a bier de March is something we've hardly covered on the channel at all, in fact. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you do want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but I'm sure it won't be the last, especially because they've got a Scotch ale that I saw. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like in there. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will no doubt pop up there, but failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Belgian playlist along with a number of other things, and you can of course check out the playlist of beers from other countries down there as well. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then and tell you a little bit about Brouwerij De Glazen Toren. So, Brouwerij De Glazen Toren, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Erpe-Mere in Flanders, Vlaanderen. And it's kind of between, it's about halfway actually between Ghent to the northwest and Brussels, the Belgian capital, to the southeast. I think that's a fairly good description of where they are. But the brewery was founded back in 2002 by Jeff van den Steen and Dirk de Pauw. So Jeff originally studied maths and is also a well-known beer author, in fact, and he's written for a number of beer magazines. He's released a good few books and done other publications as well. He is very, very well respected. Steen, though, has a background in law, and he'd just been appointed as the town clerk when the two guys met in 1988. But they soon discovered that they had a common interest in beer, and so they decided to start home brewing together using a 50-litre brew kit, and then in 1991 they enrolled together in the CTL Brewing School in Ghent and became certified brewmasters in 1994. So when they graduated, they began the search for location and equipment, and then a bit later on things started to take off. They were joined in 2002 by a third partner, Mark de Neef, who was the head librarian in Aalst, and the group basically went on and started continuing this quest together. They found a brew kit in Halmarden, which was where Meester's Brewery had just closed its doors, and then they found a location in Erpe-Mere on Glazen Toren, hence the name of the brewery. But they started off with a 5 hectolitre brew kit, And the first beer from the brewery was released in August of 2004. But in 2006, they renewed the whole brewery infrastructure. They brought new tanks and installed a 25 hectolitre brew kit, which became operational in January of 2007. But over the following years, they started to build up their sales. They also started to export their beer quite far afield as well. Quite a few things going over to the US and Japan, and of course all across Europe as well. And they built a very good name for themselves. In 2019, though, they purchased a new facility in Alstzud, and they plan to install a 40 hectolitre brew kit in there. And I believe this facility is very close to being up and running, in fact. As of June 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 30 different kinds of beer, and it seems that they're one of these breweries that kind of focus on recipe development quite slowly, you know, just perfecting things very gradually over time. One of the interesting things about this brewery was that until recently, I believe, a lot of their beers were sold in wrappers, so you didn't have this kind of label underneath it, but you had the sort of paper wrapper around the thing, and I think that is still kind of popular with a number of Belgian beers and breweries today. I remember Bloemen beer was one that I reviewed on the channel a number of years ago that was like that, but I think quite often Systembolaget tend to take the wrappers off the Belgian beers that have that for some reason. I'm not sure what the exact reason is. It's probably some law that says you can't cover a bottle up and just drink it like that or something crazy. But yeah, anyway, that's another really cool thing about this brewery. If you check out the brewery website, you will see what these kind of paper label things are like actually. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Brouwerij De Glazen Toren, you can check out the brewery website in the video description below, as I've said. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So as you can see with this one, this is a big 750 milliliter bomber bottle, I guess we could call it. And as we said earlier, this one comes in at 9% ABV. It is basically a Saison, but they are referring to it on Untappd as a Bier de Mars, which, like I said, from what I remember of the Bier de Mars, it's a slightly more malty and stronger Saison. It's kind of like almost the sort of farmhousey equivalent of the German Märzen in some ways. It's kind of like this, but basically a beer that's brewed a little bit stronger, to be released later on, from what I remember correctly. But yeah, as I say, Bier de Mars translates literally as the beer of March. It tends to be brewed in that month. But this beer cost me 100 Swedish kroner, so that translates to roughly 10 euros, probably about 9 euros today with the weaker exchange rate, so about £8 sterling and somewhere in the region of $10 American. But for a 750 milliliter Imperial Saison at 9%, imported from Belgium, you can't really knock that at all. I think that's pretty decent value. On the bottle cap, of course, you can see the brew kettle there, the old school brew kettle from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren. But yeah, a really nicely presented bottle, this one. The other thing to tell you about this beer is that it's hopped using hops from Aalst in the local area in East Flanders. So there are Belgian hop farms, of course. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it is. See what it's like. I'm really curious about this. Good little bit on the smoke. Good little bit of smoke on the opening there as we open this one up. But let's get a little bit of it out into the glass and see what it's all about. Just be careful with this one, because as we know, Belgian beers do undergo bottle fermentation, secondary fermentation. So you can often get massive heads on these things. But I think, yeah, we've got just somewhere between a third and a half of the beer out into the glass at the moment with this one, and that's definitely enough to take a proper look at the appearance and things. So yeah, this looks absolutely lovely, I have to say. So you can see that the beer has poured with about 2 fingers of a frothy, I would say, kind of perfect white head in there. You've got some lovely kind of medium-sized bubbles just sitting on top of the surface of the liquid there, but you've got some nice foamy bubbles on top of that. Then you've got some bigger bubbles sitting above that too, which is really nice. But you can see there are a few kind of bumps in the head as well, which is quite nice. But in terms of the colour of this one, as you'd expect from Saisons, Saisons are always really quite bright in their colour. They can have a little bit of an amber tint to them depending on what type of malts and things you use in them. But yeah, this one is definitely a kind of bright sort of mango yellow colour, this one, very much like a German Helles or something like that. But you can see one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, quite a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there, but overall it does look very nice. You can see there's quite a little bit of sediment particle floating around in this one, and this is quite often the case with some of the farmhouse beers as well. Actually, they do have quite a little bit more of a sedimenty, yeasty kind of thing to it. So you can see this beer does have a lovely natural haze, but like I say, this is all part and parcel of the Saison style, of which I believe the Bière de Mars is a kind of daughter, if we can call it that. But yeah, I've also seen Bière de Mars listed as a kind of lambic style of beer too, so there must be a few different types of Bière de Mars. But yeah, this one certainly looks the part of a Saison. I might have expected an Imperial Saison to be a little bit more amber, to be honest with you, because of the higher concentration of malt, and they might have put something in there that's a little bit kind of sweeter and things. But it does say on the side of the bottle that this one is done with wheat malt as well, which will probably be the reason for the nice bright yellow colour. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one and see what it's all about. Appearance-wise, there's nothing particularly surprising about it. So let's do this. So, aroma-wise, this one is really very, very nice actually. Gives you everything you would want from the style, and I can say straight away, I can see exactly why Alan would enjoy this beer, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, aroma-wise, this one gives you everything you'd want from the style. You know, you've got the lovely big breadiness, you've got a little bit of sweetness to it as well. You can smell some of the nice wheaty character, good little bit of hoppy grassiness, and just that little touch of kind of almost spicy character underneath as well. It's a beautiful smelling beer, this one. Yeah, let's have a little look at this properly. Let's just break the aroma down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Yeah, so for me, aroma-wise, this beer, it's great. The backbone of the beer, you absolutely have a little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust. Oh, we've got a little moth that's come in. Hope that doesn't show up too much. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust in there. It smells like it's straight out the bakery. You know, you've almost still got a little bit of the flour left on it. So that's really interesting. But yeah, you also get a little bit of woodiness in the base of the beer as well. A nice kind of dry, woody character. Little tiny little hint of vanilla within that woody character as well. But then above that, there's a lovely big, fluffy, white bready note coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely big kind of fluffy white bready note out in this one. You do get a little bit of that yeasty, doughy character coming out of this beer as well. It has got a little bit of that kind of slightly clovey note to it. It's almost got a very slight banana type quality to it as well. So yeah, within the kind of bread, you've got the fluffy white bread, but then further back on the nose, you've got a little bit of the wheaty bitiness, of course, as well, but then you have the wee touch of banana, the big kind of doughy, yeasty sort of thing that you often get from many different kinds of Belgian beer. And then, yeah, you've got this lovely little bit of kind of more dense and smooth white bread from the wheat just sitting on top of that. There is a little degree of sweetness to this one, I have to say. So for me, the sweeter side of this beer has been for me, the sweeter side of this beer is kind of like, it's got a wee touch of like a Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, but there's almost like a little bit of biscuit to it as well. But at the same time, a lot of the sweetness you're getting out of this one, it's kind of like that kind of slightly candied banana, it's almost like a slightly bubblegummy type quality that comes out of this one too, which is really quite interesting. And this is something to be expected of Saisons as well. This is actually one of the more dense and kind of sweet Saisons that I've come across before, actually. But like I say, the Bière de Mars, I don't know if this is how the Bière de Mars variant of the Saison tends to be. So yeah, this is quite interesting in that sense. But it's a beautiful smelling beer on the malty and yeasty side of things for sure. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of it, to be quite honest with you. So on the hoppy side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect. One thing I've often thought about Belgian hops, and feel free to add your own opinions in the comments below, I've often found that Belgian hops are kind of somewhere in the middle of the German noble hops and the English thing. So for me, English hops are characterised by that more earthy and herbal kind of quality, whereas the German hops have a lovely smoothness to them, but they're also quite bright in their floral and grassy character. So for me, Belgian hops have a wee bit of everything. They have got a little bit of earthiness and a little bit of herbal character, but it's a bit smooth like the German hops, and you do get a kind of more bright floral and grassy type note out of the Belgian hops too. So yeah, I would say that actually about these. But yeah, the hoppy character that you get out of this one is lovely. I mean, you've got a nice kind of you definitely have that lovely little touch of earthiness in there. You've got a wee bit of a herbal character too, but a lovely bright floral aromaticity is definitely coming out of this one as well. So yeah, lovely big kind of bright floral aromaticity, nice kind of zesty grassy character in there as well, which is quite in keeping with the style. I always like to have a little bit of that, and I like to have a little bit more floral and grassiness when it comes to my Saisons, to be honest with you. And then yeah, beyond that, I don't think there's too much to say about the green component in this beer. So yeah, on the fruity side of things then, for me, it's kind of what you'd expect from the style. As we said earlier, you've got a little bit of this kind of candied bubblegum. You've got a wee bit of the candied bubblegum and sort of, you know, yeah, candied bubblegum, candied banana sort of note out of the beer. But with this one, you do get a few other things going on as well. For me, there's a little touch of like a dried apricot. Yeah, there is a wee bit of the dried apricot in there. You have got a little bit of a, there's maybe a teeny little bit of passion fruit or something like that as well. But yeah, dried apricot, passion fruit I definitely stick with. Nice little bit of oily pear. No, more dry pear. The fruits in this one are definitely dry. And then you've also got a wee bit of kind of sultana in this one, you know, dry white green grapes for sure. But then beyond that, you've got a good little bit of a sort of floral, you've got the floral grassiness in there, and within that you've got a good little touch of kind of lemon limey character coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really quite nice in that sense. This beer gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, aroma wise, very, very nice. So let's put a wee bit more of this into the glass and we'll actually have a taste of this now. As I always say though, take a wee bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. I gave that a little bit more of an aggressive pour than I intended to there, but this is kind of how you should drink your Saisons. Good little bit of head on them, and just look at that. It looks absolutely lovely. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. So yeah, just to give it its full name, this one is the Saison d'Erpe-Mere Lentebier, a 9% Imperial Saison. I've also seen it listed as a Bier de Mar on Untappd, as I've mentioned, but this one comes to you from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren in Erpe-Mere, between Ghent and Brussels in Flanders, Vlaanderen in Belgium. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, Skål, cheers, Proust, Santé. Oh yeah, that is really, really nice. Yeah, I mean, as I say, if this is a Bier de Mar, then it just seems it's like a big, strong, kind of more boozy, but very, very smooth and classic Belgian Saison. Yeah, these beers are really nice. Yeah, you can see why these beers are becoming more and more popular, of course. Lovely stuff. So a big thumbs up, and I can see why. I can see immediately just on that first sip why Alan was kind of raving about this one. So, where do we start with this? Where do we start with this one then? I'll say that as a Saison, it gives you everything you'd want. You've got the lovely wheaty character in there, the nice big yeasty and woody notes, a good little bit of hoppy character, and also some nice kind of grassiness in there as well. Yeah, I think that's it. I do think that is really, really very nice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be nice to enjoy. I actually just opened this one up to enjoy myself for the evening, working my way through a few beers before I go to the the motherland for a while. And this is one that I just wanted to crack open, and certainly don't regret it. But just sit and enjoy it. There's a little bit of euphoria with that. It is nice. But yeah, let's start on the middle third of the palette then, and just see where we go from here. Yeah. So, middle third of your palette then. This is one of these beers where it does kind of, the flavours that you get are to be expected from what you pick up in the aroma, but it's very, as you say, it's very sort of, it's just even better than you think it's going to be. So the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. As I say, it tastes as if it's still got a little bit of flour on the crust. As you move further forward on that, middle third of your palate, you do get that nice little bit of woody character coming out of this one, which is great. So yeah, there is a nice little bit of a kind of sweet, smooth, woody character toward the front of that middle third of the palate. It almost has just a little bit of, it almost just has a little bit of that kind of vanilla type quality, which I personally think is very, very nice. Yeah, but then above the kind of bread crusting, you do get a little hint, a little smattering of, say, Jacob's cream cracker out of this one, which is great. But then you get all the bready notes, and I would say the bready character that you have on that middle third of your palate there, it's a lovely, dense and slightly sweet. It's a dense and kind of slightly sweet, fluffy white bread in this one. Yeah, it's really, really nice. And yeah, within that sort of more dense white bready layer, there is a sort of more fluffy layer just above that. But yeah, the dense white bready layer which sits further down, it's it has a really nice kind of, yeah, it's got a really nice sort of, it does have a wee touch of that kind of bubblegummy sweet, yeah, it's got a little bit of that bubblegummy sweetness to it. Also a little bit of the, it's got a little bit of the bubblegummy sweetness to it. Also a little bit of the kind of, like a wee bit of the kind of candied banana. It's almost just got a little bit of that to it, but not too much. I would actually say that it is more of a bread rather than a kind of fruit bread or candied bread or something like this. But above that more dense white bready layer, like I say, you've got a slightly more fluffy white bready layer, and then you can feel the smooth wheat just sitting on top of everything there in that middle third of the palate. Above that, I think there is maybe a little touch of a sweet side of the beer in the very centre of your palate, so let's just focus on that and see what we get. So yeah, above that middle third of your palate, above the kind of wheaty layer in this beer, you definitely have that nice kind of oily. You've got that bit. You've got a little touch of like a Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch in the dead centre of your palate, and maybe just a little smattering of a kind of biscuity note out of this one. The further into the aftertaste you go, but yeah, the way that the beer goes together in that particular regard is really very, very nice. Yeah, the middle third of your palate in this beer is just absolutely lovely, and it, as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, let's have a little look at the back third of your palate then. So, as I've often said, one of the things you'll notice with your palate is that the more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, the sweeter ones come out further forward. And on the back third of the palate, you are going to get similar flavours to what you would get with the. You're going to get similar flavours to what you would get on the middle third of the palate, but they just come out with different intensities. So yeah, on the back third of your palate, you have the kind of bread crusty character that we talked about before, but it feels a little bit drier. There's a wee bit of a kind of crackery note in there. You've got a nice kind of dense, yeah, you've got a wee bit of that dense, kind of sweet white bread in there first, so you can feel that, but it does feel a little bit lighter and airy. Above that, you do get a really fluffy, airy white bready character coming out of this one, and then you can feel the wheaty character sitting on top of all of that. So the wheaty character has a little bit of bitiness and stuff to it, and it is very, very smooth. But yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really, really very nice. And above everything else, above everything else, you've got a nice kind of yeasty character in there. So there's a really fluffy sort of, there is a really fluffy kind of yeasty character coming out of this beer, and it is like a slightly more farmhousey, airy, brown bread type character. A lot of woodiness to it, a lot of kind of crackery notes, and also a little touch spicy. But then it's just wrapped in this little bit of. It is just wrapped in this little bit of kind of honeycomb or something like that. But definitely on the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour. It is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that the beer goes together in that regard, I think, is really, really nice, in fact. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure. I do like that about this one. I do like how all that pieces together. So on the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on that, the green component. So the back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of that smooth earthiness in there. And as you move further forward, you start to get a more herbal character, and the herbal character does actually spread further and further forward with this beer. The hoppy side of this beer really is quite smooth, to be honest with you. There's a little tiny bit of floral note on the front corners of the palate, but round the front curve of the tongue, you definitely get more of a kind of lighter and wetter, grassy type note to the beer. So yeah, I really do like how that pieces together. But yeah, that is really nice in this one, and as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, the green component in this beer just adds a little bit more kind of depth to it, and it also builds in quite well with the slightly bitier part of the wheaty character too. But yeah, like I say, this beer is really very, very nice. Yeah, let's look at the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. There's a little, you know, as I say, it's still quite a fluffy and dense, fluffy and dense at the same time, white bread. But then the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel the bread crust is really smoothened out quite a lot. You get that nice, very smooth, dense, white bready, doughy kind of character there. Then you've got a nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. So yeah, really like that. Again, a big thumbs up. A big thumbs up for the way the malty and yeasty side of this beer comes out. But let's focus on that fruity side of things then. yeah. So for me, the fruity side of the beer, it's quite, as I say, the fruity side of the beer for me is nice, and it has a really nice sort of, I would say, it's a real kind of dry fruity character. And as I say, you've got the kind of banana and the bubblegummy notes that come out of this beer the further into the aftertaste you go, but I would point out that those are quite a little bit more subtle in this beer. This beer is more kind of bready and wheaty and things like that, but definitely at the back of that front third of your palate, you've got a wee touch of a, you've got a little touch of a kind of, how would we say, you've got a little touch of a more sultana, dry, white, green, grapey kind of note coming out of this one. But then as you move further forward, you get a kind of dry apricot and dry pear in the very middle of that front third of your palate. But then as you move further forward toward the front tip of the tongue, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of lemony, kind of limey, slightly zesty kind of thing out of this. Maybe a bit of fresh green apple sitting on top of it as well. So these are all things that you can kind of get out of a Saison, but the dominant character for me in the fruity side of things, it's a little bit of that dry white green grapey note and the drier apricot. So yeah, I think the way that that goes together is really nice. This is a beautiful beer, this one, and I can see exactly why Alan said I should have a go at this. So I do thank him for the recommendation. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the mouthfeel then, just to round off this one. So, mouthfeel wise, I would say that this beer, it's kind of pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. Yeah, carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. And I do, as I say, I do really like how this pieces together. But yeah, it's a very, very smooth, and I don't know if creamy is the right word, but it has a lovely, it's almost got a kind of smooth, silky type character to it. This beer, I have to say. So yeah, it gets like I say, a big thumbs up from me, this one. But on the as I say, on the on the kind of malty side of things with this, or in terms of the IBUs with this beer, we should start there first. I'm confusing myself for no reason. I would say that this beer is a fairly standard kind of 15 or maybe 20 IBU at the most. It has got a little bit of bitterness there that comes out a wee bit more into the aftertaste. You do get a little bit more floral character out of this beer the further into the aftertaste you go. You've also got a little bit of dryness and stuff from the malty aspects of the beer, but overall the malty aspect is very, very smooth with a little touch of sweetness, as I've said. So yeah, I do like how that pieces together in this beer. But on the fruity side of things, I think it really is kind of very dry. It's like a very dry fruity character you get out of this one, and the fruit kind of goes right into the back. It kind of just goes right into the background with this beer, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I really do like how this one pieces together. It's a beautiful beer, this one, lovely, very smooth and bright imperial saison. Not the most malty of saisons that I've come across, right enough. It does focus more on the wheat and the yeasty side of things, but nothing wrong with that, I have to say. But yeah, very impressed with this one, and I can see why Alan recommended this to me. And I'll tell you something, it covers its alcohol very, very well. I can feel it going to my head just now, but in terms of the flavour, it does cover it very well. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this review then. So this one, to give it its full name again, was the Saison d'Erpe-Mere, a Lentebier, the Lentebier, a kind of, how would we say, a Bière de Mar Imperial Saison type thing, 9% ABV from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren in Erpe-Mere, halfway between Ghent to the northwest and Brussels to the southeast in Vlaanderen, down in Belgium, I should say. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are
from Brouwerij De Glazen Toren as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Slàinte Scott, cheers, thank you for watching my channel. Check out my social media, check out Brouwerij De Glazen Toren social media, and I will see you guys in the next review. Slàinte Scott, cheers, Proust and Santé.